Hey, what's up guys, Rev here. Today, I have some very disturbing updates involving a situation I covered a few days ago. To cut to the chase, Genshin Impact and MiHoYo have fired Elliot Gindi, the English voice actor behind the character Tighnari, after a torrent of allegations went public against him. So a few days ago, I made this video covering the initial wave of allegations made against Elliot, based on a Google Doc sharing the stories of 3 alleged victims of his predatory behavior. Well, as it turns out, that Google Doc, as disturbing as it was only the tip of the iceberg in this saga, because in the coming days, and even hours after my video's release, a whole host of new evidence came out, cementing his guilt even further. So in this current video, I want to provide you all with every important update. So we're going to visit a website archiving a list of new allegations and stories from nearly 24 new victims. We'll look at some of the latest reactions within the voice acting community, and we'll end with the final update, which is of course his firing from Genshin Impact. Now, before we get into the latest updates, let's quickly cover what happened in my last video about this situation. So when I made that video 6 days ago on February 11th, there was one main source of evidence floating around, and that was a Google Doc that was shared on Twitter by one of Elliot's former mods. Now, if you want the full breakdown of that evidence, you can check out my previous video listed in the description, but to sum it up quickly, 3 victims of Elliot's predatory behavior came forward to share their disturbing relationships with him. Relationships where Elliot abused his position of power as a celebrity to encourage his victims, including 2 minors aged both 17 and 14 at the time, to interact with him sexually, even going as far as using their trauma as sexual assault victims against them to pry more details about these traumatic events for his own gratification. And when these victims hinted that they would go forward with their stories or even attempted to cut him off, he would blame them for what happened, attempt to blackmail them, and even threaten to game end himself if they spoke out. And when that Google Doc did go public, Elliot was chastised by every community that came across it, leading to his ridiculous apology and blackout of his account, where he confirmed that all of the chat logs were true and offered no meaningful defense to anything alleged against him. Needless to say, that strong set of evidence was already enough to condemn him to the 9 circles of hell, but like I said, that was only the tip of the iceberg, because shortly after I posted that previous video, the initial Google Doc would be taken down for violations against Google's terms of service, but that would only represent a minor setback, because in the coming hours, an updated set of evidence would be released. So now I want to spend some time and look at this website. It is one shared by the mod who posted the original Google Doc. It archives the stories of roughly 26 total victims that have shared their experience over the past few days that they had with Elliot. Stories from people who were as young as 13 when Elliot was having sexual interactions with them. So the first thing I want to do is correct something from my previous video, and that has to do with Elliot's age. In my previous video, I stated based on public information that Elliot was 24. However, based on this circumstantial evidence from Discord screenshots as well as some of his tweets, it is very clear that Elliot is actually 31 years old. Now, of course, 25 years old talking with 13-year-olds is still massively creepy and disgusting. Does him being 31 make much of a difference? I don't really know, but it just goes to show how creepy this guy is, when in some cases he is now nearly 2 decades older than the children he was grooming online. But I want to start with one of these stories. Like I said, there's 26 total victims in this situation, and I'm not picking any of these because the other ones aren't as important. I just want to give a certain breakdown of stories that really give a good profile as to Elliot's, really his approach to grooming these victims. He had a very similar pattern with all of them. He would contact kids and teenagers between the ages of 13 to 16, mostly transgender, and he would build up their confidence by talking about his character Tighnari and his voice acting and all of those things. And then once he got comfortable enough with them, he would make a sexual advance. And when they would reject him or tell him that they were underage, he would go, "Oh, woe is me. I hate myself. I'm so sorry." And then when they say that they're going to leave or go forward with their stories, he says he will game end himself if they go forward. So I want to start with this person named Lee or Lay. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. But this one kind of captures all of those themes I just talked about. They were groomed by Elliot from the age of 16 to 21. It was a 5-year endeavor with this guy. He met this person on a Pokemon Discord server where they were getting bullied for the art that they were posting, and then Elliot came in like the white knight he pretends to be and tried to save this teenager by building up their confidence about their artwork, which eventually, of course, as you can guess, got sexual, and they were asking for lewd artwork and began making more sexual advances. And here is the screenshots. These are actually from February 3rd of this year, so 2 weeks ago, when all of this evidence was starting to leak out. And although the old screenshots are no longer available, we have him confirming right here 2 weeks ago, "I'm sorry for being sexual towards you, knowing full and damn well you were 16 when we first started chatting and you confided in me, telling me about the times you got sexually abused and assaulted." And just like many of these other victims, he had a gross, self-satisfying interest in the sexual abuse of these teenagers. And of course, another tactic he does a lot is dead naming his victims, which, for those who don't know, dead naming is when you use the birth name of a transgender person, the name that they were given at birth, as opposed to the name that they're using since they have transitioned. And he has the full-fledged breakdown. This is over like the course of days, just a wall of text with no responses, saying how much he loves this person and his life is ending and he really needs them. And he goes on to say also, like, threatening this person, saying, "You know no one will care about you. You're 21 now. No one will care anymore. You're not 16 anymore. Nobody will give an S." Like, just berating this person. It's so disgusting, and saying, like, how could you go forward? You're going to end my life. My life and career are about to be destroyed because of brats like you. Hoyoverse could fire me if this got out. Like, it's absolutely crazy. And going on, of course, you can see more game end bait in here. This is a pretty common theme. This captured a lot of the patterns I talked about earlier. But now we're going to move on to another victim named Miki, or Mickey. Again, sorry if I'm mispronouncing. But I bring this one up because this is one of the younger victims. This one is 13 years old. And from what I can tell, again, a lot of chat logs wiped. But in this case, it is very obvious that they were asking for nudes from this child. And of course, when Elliot finds out their age, he does the same tactic of blaming the victim, saying, "It's your fault for not listing an age," which most of them listed ages in their bios, by the way. "If this gets out, you're the first person I'm sending my game end bait video to," which, by the way, Elliot, you stupid moron, how do you send a video of you game ending yourself to another person? Besides the point. "In serious, Mickey, don't effing do it. I will game end myself." "That's not cool. You know I've had someone tell me that before, Elliot. I will block." No, wait. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were 13. I'm serious. I didn't know. Please, if this gets out, my family will hate me. I'm trying to get therapy. Please just understand." Like, it's so pathetic. And then he calls the person the B word because they're saying, like, "Yeah, I was in school. You should have known." Like, nobody in college calls this English LA. Like, seriously, man. And then, of course, then calls them crazy and that they're trying to ruin their life. And I hope your intrusive thoughts only think of me. This is a 31-year-old man talking to a 13-year-old. Like, if that doesn't disturb you, I don't know what else would. Now we're going to move on to another story from this person, Cal, who once again is a 14-year-old when they encountered Elliot Gindi. And in this case, it appears that he is a transgender teenager And in this case, it was a little bit different in the sense that you don't have as many screenshots, but these things tell a pretty clear tale, like all of the others, where he reached out to Elliot talking about love of the character Tighnari and that it was a comfort character and all those things. And once things got sexual, they were not interested in those things. And of course, after all of that, he goes into a complete and utter breakdown, talking about how he hated himself. And of course, you know how this ends, asking them to delete the chat logs and all of those things. And it really just, it shows once again, this person mentions that they had their age in their bio. Like, this can't happen 100 times. It's not a mistake. It's a pattern, right? How many times, like, God forbid, at some point in your life, you have the mistake of talking to someone and not knowing how old they are. Let's say you're stupid enough to let that happen. How do you let it happen again and again and again? Wouldn't you be paranoid about these things? Wouldn't you be, like, always looking for someone's age before you get into any sort of a sexual conversation with them? But I want to move on to the next one, this person named Kit. In this case, you have someone who is once again 13 years old, and they said that they don't have any screenshots as well because he was told to delete, or they were told to delete their Discord after Elliot found out their age. But in this case, you have once again someone bonding with Elliot over the Tighnari character he voices, and then things quickly become sexual, making gross comments and asking if they're from the US, asking questions, personal questions about them. And of course, not once did these questions ask for an age, which they said was strange because their age was in their bio. And again, asking weird things about their gender, having this like fixation on calling them a girl, even though it seems like they're uncomfortable with these things, and asking obviously very personal questions, and then of course saying that they want to do sexual things in person with this child. And like many of the others, it ends in the same exact way, begging for forgiveness once they found out that they're 13, and told them that if this person didn't delete their account and get rid of the evidence, that he was going to game end himself and it would be all their fault. Now, I want to end with one more victim statement here from an unnamed victim, and I chose this one because this person was 19 when these things unfolded. It was one of the rare adults in this situation, but it just shows how disgusting this man was and how he abused any bit of power he had. So this was someone who was an aspiring voice actress, and they reached out to Elliot and bonded over his character and wanting to be a voice actor. And unsurprisingly, very quickly, he started making sexual advances. And this person kind of brushed it off at first and said that they were just uncomfortable with these things and not interested in that sort of thing. And also eventually opened up about being sexually assaulted as a child by a family member, which of course he took a disgusting interest in. And eventually this person just said, I'm a lesbian, I'm into girls. And he said that, well, with something he could change that, and made many attempts to set up a threesome with another fan of his or something, which of course was rejected. But these are text messages that were sent. Again, the chat logs were wiped, but we do have some of the messages. And you see how the conversations turn so quickly, and just these gross things like pressuring this person into a sexual situation, and that he only interacts with people with followers, but you're my special girl. Like, gross. And then as soon as these advances were rejected, goes to name calling, saying that your dreams are gone down the drain. You'll never become a voice actor. I'm not even talking to the higher ups for you. I told blank you were crazy and obsessed fan, just seeking attention. Don't ever think about telling him again you don't want to find out what they'll do. And then, of course, they try to apologize and really just say that karma is coming to them. And they say that basically you're just an attention-seeking, not good stuff. But 26 stories, all of them are equally gross. Again, check out the document or the website for yourself. It'll be linked in the description if you want. Every story, if you want to look into it. Again, it's graphic, so if you don't want to read that kind of stuff, you don't have to, but it is there. So unsurprisingly, in wake of all of these developments, voice actors have continued to come out and voice their opinion on this whole controversy and distance themselves as far as possible from Elliot. Now, there's a lot of recent voice actor quotes we could use, but I wanted to focus on this one from a fellow Genshin Impact voice actor because it's pretty disturbing. So he says, "I wasn't going to make this tweet because I thought I said my piece, but after I found out he was using my effing name to lure folks in, I gotta say something. I barely knew Elliot Gindi. We literally just played games together. The first time I talked to him was on a live stream. Then we literally just talked about collabing on stream and the occasional dumb joke or something Genshin. That was the literal extent of any relationship we had. Just because I voiced Sino and he was Tighnari doesn't mean it went any deeper than that." So basically what he was doing was name dropping people like Alejandro to lure kids in to be sexual with them. So obviously I think we all understand his disgust and the need to voice publicly that he has no association with this weirdo other than just the fact that they shared some moments revolving around Genshin on stream. But as for the big news, you knew this was coming all throughout this video. Genshin Impact made this statement yesterday, making the official announcement, releasing Elliot from his role, stating, "Dear travelers, after communications with the voice recording agency, we hereby confirm that Elliot Gindi, the English voice actor for Tighnari, will no longer be voicing the character in subsequent versions due to a breach of contract. At present, we are communicating with the voice recording agency regarding matters of casting and re-recording. We will gradually replace Tighnari's existing in-game voice lines and issue these updates in the corresponding announcements. Thank you for your support, travelers." Yeah, I mean, this was the obvious decision. They had to let him go. Even when there was just the 3 victims, the right move was to let go of him. But now with this mountain of evidence against Elliot Gindi, there's no other choice than to let him go. And I'm glad to see it. I mean, despite the fact that it was the obvious decision, it's still good to see justice being done. At the very least, he is completely ostracized from the voice acting community. He will never get another role. I promise you that. There's not many guarantees I can say. He will never voice another role in the voice acting community as long as he's around. And that, to many people, including myself, is not enough. He needs to see some legal consequences for what he's doing. He hurt way too many children to be able to just walk around free. Now, the legal process is long, and apparently he lives in New York City, so, you know, it's difficult to coordinate these things, and the legal process could take years. But I hope people are persistent and they use tip lines properly to report his behavior, and hopefully justice is served in full. But that's going to do for this video. I know it was a lot, so I appreciate the listen. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.